Hey guys, welcome back to Wrestling News 365. Hope everyone is doing very well. As always, there is a ton of news stories to get into today, so let's talk about the world of WWE. There's quite a few things to talk about, specifically this first thing with Charlotte Flair and Nia Jax. Of course, they are trending and have continued to trend after Monday Night Raw last night after a really tough physical match. And you might be saying to yourself, oh, and why are we talking about a Nia Jax and Charlotte Flair match to kick off this video? Well, we're talking about it because it might have got real for a second last night. Now, one of the hottest social media topics coming out of this week's edition of Monday Night Raw is the really rough match between Nia Jax and Raw Women's Champion Charlotte Flair. Now, the match came after Jax was ringside for Shayna Baszler's earlier loss to Rhea Ripley. Now, Jax promised that she would take out Ripley and Nikki Ash, who was at ringside with Ripley, and then do the same to Charlotte Flair later on in the evening. And she did just that. But the ringside attack on Nikki led to Rhea Ripley getting the pin on Shayna Baszler. Jax then attacked Ripley after the match and stood tall. Now, Jax faced Charlotte Flair in a non-title match later on in the show and defeated the Raw Women's Champion by pinfall after a powerbomb. But many fans were talking about how rough the match was, with some speculating on if the two superstars were actually shooting on each other. Now, WWE Hall of Famer Mick Foley tweeted a reaction to the match saying, quote, "Just wondering, ... WTF was up with that Charlotte versus Nia match." Now, Jax appeared on Raw Talk with Kevin Patrick and commented on a potential title shot, talked about how Charlotte was a 12-time women's champion, blah, blah, blah. That's not important. The crux of the issue here, and the reason why it looked like it turned into a shoot, maybe, at one point, was that Nia Jax was doing a back suplex onto Charlotte Flair, and kind of a back suplex where instead of lifting her up and going down with her, she lifted her up and then just dropped her, just threw her. She kind of picked her up, and it turned almost into a throw as opposed to a back suplex. So she picks her up and just throws her over her shoulder, and Charlotte Flair landed nastily. And it's not a case of, oh, Charlotte Flair didn't take the bump properly. She just picked her up and threw her, and she landed on the back of her head, on the back of her neck. A couple of seconds later, Charlotte Flair gets up, and she's obviously talking to Nia Jax. She's obviously talking to her, and she looks pretty annoyed, to say the very least. And she kind of gets her hand and sort of shoves it into her face a little bit. And Nia Jax, you can see her demeanor change, saying, don't do it, don't do it. And Charlotte Flair, again, does like the shove to the face. And Nia Jax then throws some hands. And there's a difference between a working punch and a legitimate, proper throwing punches, because those punches were thrown quick. I mean, to say they were thrown quick is an understatement. And that's exactly what happened. And the match was very physical. And at that point, I don't know. And obviously reports will come out over the course of maybe today or the next couple of days confirming whether or not this was a legitimate shoot or things got real, because that happens. It shouldn't. You should always be professional inside the ring. You should always, if you're concerned someone's being unsafe, you can talk about leaving receipts and stuff like that, but you should always address that in the back. It shouldn't disintegrate into something that becomes real and people start shooting each other or trying to attack each other for real. We've seen it. There have been infamous circumstances where that has happened in the past. I think of that Perry Saturn match. Was that on Metal or Heat back in the day? You can Google it. And you can tell that it's a shoot. You can tell that it's real. And last night, I don't know whether that was a shoot or not, but it felt very real for a brief second there. And time will only tell if that was a legitimate shoot or not. But Nia Jax threw some hands, and look, I guess if you're Charlotte Flair, I know that you are Charlotte Flair, and obviously she's kind of bulletproof in that company. It doesn't matter what her dad does, doesn't matter what she does, doesn't matter what her fiance does. WWE is going to do everything to keep Charlotte Flair and keep Charlotte Flair happy, and she's the Raw Women's Champion for the millionth time for a reason. So nothing's going to happen when it comes to Charlotte Flair, so maybe she felt quite confident because of that, but Nia Jax is still a much larger person physically than Charlotte Flair, so you're gonna have to be pretty brave shoving the face of Nia Jax, and she kind of taught Charlotte Flair a lesson because of that. I think you have to go back to, and this is what social media is still talking about, and I don't really blame social media for picking this up once again, is yet again, it's 2021, and this has happened year after year after year. It happens, at this point, it happens at least, 2 or 3 times a year? 2 or 3 times a year, we have to do a story about Nia Jax being unsafe in the ring, dropping an opponent on their head, giving them an injury, giving them a nasty cut, injuring them, or being in a circumstance where they have a concussion or a cut, again, or just a botch. And when is the point of when people are going to start to say enough's enough? Last night for me, if you look at that suplex, it was just Nia Jax being, I don't know if reckless is the right word. Maybe it was being reckless. This is always been my issue of Nia Jax when it comes to isn't she safe in the ring? And this has always been my opinion on Nia Jax. I don't think outwardly she's unsafe in terms of she's intentionally trying to hurt people. I think she's careless. I think that's the issue here. Nia Jax is arguably stronger than any other female on the WWE roster. When she was in NXT, the records are there. She was breaking all kinds of performance center, combine, powerlifting records, all that kind of stuff. She is one of the strongest females, if not the strongest female on the roster today. But as Spider-Man would say, with great power comes great responsibility, in the sense that when you're that strong and you're that much stronger than other people and that much bigger than other people that you're in the ring with, you have to be careful. You don't think when Mark Henry was ever in the ring with all of these people, he could just snap them in half and hurt them? Of course he could. Of course he could. Even with people like The Big Show or Andre the Giant, right? They could absolutely just snap people like a twig because they're that much bigger and that much stronger than them. So their role is to be careful. And sometimes that's the problem with Nia Jax, is sometimes, whether it's a case of her not knowing her own strength or her being careless or being reckless, I don't know what it is, but every year, it's not even every couple of years, every year we have to talk about Nia Jax potentially injuring someone or being careless or being reckless. And I understand she's, again, a bigger person. I understand it's her demonstrating how powerful she is. It's her demonstrating her character, right? She's this big, she's the irresistible force, right? That's what they like to call her, but not at the expense of your opponent's health. When you step in the ring with someone, you give your body to them, and it's not your right to injure them or hurt them by being reckless. The ambition should be is that your opponent leaves the ring in the same state that they walked in, and that's healthy. And I think Charlotte Flair, I think she's been in matches with Nia Jax before where she might have got, her bell rung or injured or whatever. And I understand it's not ballet, but when it becomes enough, and maybe that was last night, but irrespective of that, Charlotte Flair didn't really get in the best way afterwards, because Nia Jax is obviously the bigger and stronger person. Maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe it's a case of someone within WWE needs to have a word. I'm sure they have, but they need to have that word again, because we're still having the same issue when it comes to Nia Jax, when it comes to, again, I think being like reckless or being dangerous is maybe unfair, but those injuries are there, and those injuries are what they are, and you need to, if you're WWE, someone needs to have a word, in my opinion, because it's a constant issue. It's a constant issue. Let's talk about Adam Cole. We have an update when it comes to Adam Cole and his WWE future, because WWE reportedly issued a memo on Adam Cole's WWE status to the rest of the company yesterday. Now, as previously noted, Cole's WWE contract was set to expire this past Friday, and did expire this past Friday, officially making him a free agent. He's no longer under contract to any company. It's now confirmed that Cole is no longer with the company and is a free agent. Now, WWE officials issued an internal memo yesterday morning advising that Cole is no longer with the company. According to a report via PW Insider, the memo was sent via email. Cole is now free to sign with any promotion that he wishes, and it is possible that he and WWE still could agree on a new deal. Fightful Select, which of course is their Patreon service, be sure to check that out, noted yesterday how WWE sources expect Cole to field various offers from other companies. So Adam Cole's situation isn't over just yet. I know it's All Out at the weekend, and I know that some people are kind of expecting Adam Cole to show up on Dynamite tomorrow or Rampage on Friday. That very much could happen. But as of right now, according to reports, Adam Cole hasn't made up his mind just yet. He officially isn't with the company. It is kind of a bit reminiscent, to be honest with you, with the Daniel Bryan situation, in that Bryan's contract expired, and everyone, certainly within WWE, certainly online, was under the impression he'll re-sign with WWE. Yes, he might be using AEW or New Japan for leverage, but eventually he'll sign, because why would he want to leave? And as time goes on, it becomes more and more likely that he's not going to sign. As time's gone on, he's signed with AEW. And I kind of think that's going to be the same situation here. Because Adam Cole, it would appear, and I don't blame him, by the way, but it would appear he's got this element of doubt in his mind, doesn't he? He's got this element of doubt in his mind of going, where realistically is the best place for me right now? Is it WWE? Is it the main roster? Because it's the main roster or it's AEW. He's not going back to NXT. He's just been written off of NXT television, and going back to whatever NXT is going to become isn't in his best interest anyway. That's not the brand he helped build for 4 years. So I don't blame him for not wanting to go back to that brand. And if you look at the state of Raw or SmackDown, is it a larger platform than AEW? Of course it is right now, especially SmackDown is network television. But can you trust those people? That's the real issue there. Can you trust Vince McMahon? Can you trust Bruce Pritchard with your career, with your character for the next 3 years or 4 years or 5 years? To me, the answer is no. You can't trust them. Creatively, that is a company that is bankrupt of creativity, especially for a guy like Adam Cole, especially for a smaller guy who maybe doesn't have the best physique in the world in terms of just being smaller, in terms of being an independent professional wrestler. We know WWE doesn't want to recruit independent pro wrestlers anymore. Adam Cole's that, he fits into that. We want to recruit bigger guys that are not from the independent scene. Well, Adam Cole's a smaller guy from the indie scene. We know that WWE isn't looking to actively recruit them right now. And whilst they might want Adam Cole, if I'm Adam Cole, I'm looking at that going, I don't fit into their vision for the future. So why should I re-sign? Why should I resign? And Vince McMahon, in a meeting several weeks ago, when he was backstage at SmackDown, Vince McMahon can tell me to my face that he wants me and he's desperate for me to sign. But at the same time, they were cutting so many people from the NXT roster. So why can I believe a thing he says? The answer is I can't. And he can't. So if I was him, and I'm not saying this as, you're an AEW Mark, you're an AEW shill, I'm saying this as for the betterment of his career and for where I think he'll get better opportunities to succeed, it would be AEW. But he's expected to field offers from both companies. So just because he doesn't show up on SmackDown on Friday, I don't think is a case of he's not going to sign with WWE. As silly as it sounds, until he shows up on either program, I think they're both up in the air. But what I will say is I think that it's going to be a case of a Daniel Bryan or a CM Punk or whoever most likely will know where Adam Cole is going to sign before he makes his debut, because that's the age that we're currently living in. Got some news on Goldberg versus Lashley II. As I said several times here on the channel, it's speculated that a SummerSlam rematch between Hall of Famer Goldberg and WWE Champion Bobby Lashley is reportedly planned for Saudi Arabia. As noted previously, WWE released a video, I think it was yesterday, on social media, where Goldberg said that he has knee surgery scheduled soon for the injury that he suffered at the hands of Lashley, and that he's looking to get payback on the WWE Champion for what happened to his son Gage at SummerSlam. Goldberg said he's no longer worried about the WWE Championship, only Lashley's soul. Goldberg. But in an update, WrestleVotes has tweeted that WWE is planning for Goldberg versus Lashley II to take place at Crown Jewel in October. So that knee surgery is going to be pretty quick then, Bill. If he's going to have it now, he's going to have about 6 weeks to recover. I don't even know if he's legitimately going to have surgery or not. Specifically at his age, I think that would be a real quick recovery time. So I think that's just a storyline to say, because Goldberg likes to think of this stuff. If he attacked my son, why wouldn't I go after him straight away? Why wouldn't I just show up at Monday Night Raw, all that kind of stuff? Let's say you're having surgery. Because if you're having surgery, of course you can't come back, because you're Bill Goldberg. You're a superhero to all the kids. That's what Goldberg cares about, right? So as I suspected, and I think as many people suspected, we are getting Lashley Goldberg 2 after that classic at SummerSlam. God, that was awful. I mean, the stunning thing about that match at SummerSlam is that they actually tried to have a match. At this point, we know Goldberg can't work a match. He could barely work a match anyway in his prime in terms of an actual legitimate 10-15 minute match. They tried to go over 7 minutes. 7 minutes at SummerSlam, and it was awful. Oh, it was so bad, and we're going to see it again. That's how you know the pandemic, things are changing, is they're going back to Saudi Arabia, and they're going back to having these just terrible Saudi shows. When have we seen a good one? We haven't, and we're going to see another terrible match, because I don't like to write things off before we've seen it, but oh my goodness, we know where this is going. We know this is going, and we're going to see Bobby Lashley Goldberg too, because Goldberg's got to get that Saudi money, brother, so he's going to have an extra day on his contract to work against Bobby Lashley again. But who cares? I mean, honestly, who cares? We have some updates when it comes to Sasha Banks, because because WWE officials are hopeful that Sasha Banks will be in action by mid-September for the company. As has been noted previously, Sasha Banks is currently not cleared to compete for an unknown reason. She has not wrestled since the August 7 WWE Super Show live event in Fort Myers, Florida, and of course was forced to miss SummerSlam because she was not cleared for action. In an update, PW Insider is reporting that the hope is, if all goes well, Banks will return to the road for WWE during the weekend of September 10th, which would be the Super SmackDown taping from Madison Square Garden in New York City. It was noted that nothing is 100% until it happens, but that weekend is the current expectation for Banks' return within WWE. It was also said that Banks is not scheduled to return on this week's SmackDown unless there is a last-minute change. So we don't know the circumstances surrounding Sasha Banks' absence right now, and this is what we do on the channel. We don't speculate when we don't know the causes of injuries or illnesses or whatever. She's not cleared to compete. That's all we know. So because of that, we're not going to speculate. I don't think that's fair to do so. Obviously, the most important thing is that Sasha Banks gets healthy and gets ready to return to the ring as soon as possible once she's able to do so. I still want to see that Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair rematch. I'm interested in seeing Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch once again. I think they've got great chemistry. So all of that is exciting. I think SmackDown, when it comes to the women's division, is overloaded with heels right now. Absolutely overloaded with heels. But the most important thing is that Sasha Banks can return soon once she's healthy to do so. And the expectation is that is going to be of the weekend of September 10th with that Super SmackDown taping at MSG. Now, we have some updates when it comes to Keith Lee, reportedly, and this just makes me shudder. It absolutely makes me shudder because WWE is reportedly looking to repackage Keith Lee, which makes me shudder because I look at that and I say, oh no. Oh no, the reason I say oh no is because that means then WWE's sort of creative services and the creative team's going to be looking to come up with a new character, which is terrifying. Because look at the new character Karrion Kross has. Look at some of the recent characters that they've tried to come up with, whether it's Shorty G or whether it's the Revival's failed gimmick or whether it was Lawrence Sullivan. You remember that one? All that kind of stuff. Oof. It terrifies me because I look at Keith Lee and I think, we're going to see the Funkasaurus. We're going to see the next version of the Funkasaurus. Honestly, I'm not even joking. I'm kind of half joking at this point. That's how bad WWE's creative team is. So, as has been noted, Keith Lee has been working Raw, SmackDown, dark matches as of late as a way to refine him and decide what works best for him moving forward. Of course, Lee recently revealed on YouTube how health issues kept him out of the ring earlier this year. But in an update, the Wrestling Observer is reporting that Lee has been brought to Raw and SmackDown for dark matches because officials are trying to change his style and give him a new character. They also want him to practice more in front of live fans. It's also been reported how Lee played the role of a heel in some of his recent dark matches. Regarding the aforementioned character change, it's been reported by WrestlingNews.co that WWE Chairman and CEO Vince McMahon has considered turning Lee into, quote, a monster heel for the main roster. Lee continues to get babyface reactions during these dark matches, but it looks like he could be booked as a heel when he returns to television. Look, Keith Lee as a heel, The issue you would have with Keith Lee as a heel is kind of the Becky Lynch issue at the moment, is that he is really beloved by fans, especially when they know his story now. He was beloved by fans anyway because Keith Lee's just a nice guy. Keith Lee's a nice guy, and it's very difficult to hate him or want to boo him, especially now that we know he was out the ring for half the year because he had some really serious health issues. He had issues with his heart, and there was a period of time where he couldn't even work out because they thought he might have heart disease or something like that. How can you boo that guy? Honestly, how can you boo that guy? It's really difficult to boo that guy when you know what he's had to go through and how he's had to come back. Amazing job that you've done to return to the ring. It's incredible. By the way, we're going to boo you. We hate you. That doesn't make any sense. So I just don't know if that's a possibility. As far as repackaging him and what his character could be, again, he'll come back as no longer Keith. He'll just be like Lee, or maybe he'll just be Keith. Sinister Keith. That's what he'll be coming back. I don't know. But every time I hear we're going to repackage him, and that repackaging is coming from WWE's main roster creative team, it's always alarming. It's always alarming. We have some updates when it comes to Brock Lesnar, his new WWE contract. Of course, Lesnar made his surprise return at SummerSlam where he confronted Roman Reigns and attacked John Cena after the Universal Championship match. Now, on the latest edition of the Wrestling Observer radio show, Dave Meltzer noted that Lesnar has signed on for 8 to 12 dates for the remainder of his contract. This does not include television appearances and only concerns matches. So we're talking about 8 to 12 matches. It's also been reported that Lesnar signed a contract until 2023. Also, despite making his return at SummerSlam, he will not be Reigns' next opponent for the Universal Championship. That will be Finn Balor this week on SmackDown. It's possible, of course, that something could happen during the Balor and Reigns match that would necessitate a match at Extreme Rules, which I think is probably going to be the case. That would leave Lesnar and Reigns for the match to happen either at Crown Jewel or Survivor Series, probably at Crown Jewel, because like Goldberg, Brock loves that Saudi money. So there has been discussion whether or not this was a last-minute response to CM Punk signing with AEW, making his debut. I think that probably is the case, to be honest with you. But 8 to 12 matches, if we're talking, Crown Jewel, Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, that's already 5. Another Survivor Series, another Saudi show. At what point of 2023, we don't know. Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, and maybe another couple of Saudi shows, maybe 2 more Saudi shows. That adds up. So he's only going to be in really the big 4 pay-per-view events and those Saudi shows going forward. That's it. So don't expect to see Brock Lesnar all the time on television. Of course, he probably will make some TV appearances to hype those dates up. But I think we're going to see a similar deal to what he was on before, and that's the big shows and the Saudi shows. Obviously, matches can be added in, and they might be, but it'll cost WWE a pretty penny, as always it does when it comes to Brock Lesnar. We have a final confirmation on the SmackDown ratings for last week, and it was very good. Friday's live post-SummerSlam edition of SmackDown on Fox drew an average of 2.250 million viewers on Fox, according to ShowBuzz Daily. Now, this number is down 21% from the overnight viewership that was released on Saturday morning. That's why I've stopped reporting them, because those overnights just aren't accurate, especially right now with the NFL preseason games and with the return of the NFL. They're going to be skewed so much, so there is no point to even be looking at them. But overall, the number is up 7% from last week's final SmackDown viewership of 2.1 million viewers. Now, this is the best audience that SmackDown has drawn since the July 16 episode, which, of course, was the first episode back in front of live fans on the road. This is the first time that pro wrestling has topped cable and network television in the same night as well, because SmackDown ranked number 1 in the ratings for the key 18 to 49 demographic on network television for the 3rd week in a row. It also ranks number 1 in the 18 to 34 demo this week for the 3rd week in a row, and number 1 in the 25 to 54 demo for the 3rd week in a row. So a big successful episode of SmackDown. I think there's several factors in there. I think people might not like this and they'll think that I'm poo-pooing on WWE, and I'm not. But realistically, the reason it did so well is because its lead-in is really strong. It's these NFL preseason games. We saw it when it came to SmackDown on Christmas last year. There was an NFL games, there was NFL coverage, and the lead-in was NFL, and people just don't change the channel, or they go, yeah, I'll watch SmackDown. I was watching the NFL, but okay, I'll watch SmackDown. And it's kind of the same with these preseason games. People just don't change the channel or whatever. Obviously, there are other factors, it being a post-SummerSlam edition of SmackDown and Becky Lynch returning, and maybe the thought that Brock Lesnar might show up as well. I think that all played into it, but I think the biggest thing is that NFL lead-in, and that certainly helps SmackDown. So whether or not that's going to continue going forward this season when it comes to the NFL, it's funny because for years and years, WWE has and they still do have the competition of Monday Night Football when it comes to Monday Night Raw. Now, if they can get an NFL game as a bit of a lead into SmackDown, they love it. They would absolutely love it. There's no doubt about that. Finally, we have an update on Alexa Bliss after she was absent last night from Monday Night Raw. Alexa Bliss missed this week's episode of Monday Night Raw from Oklahoma, leading to some concern among fans on social media about her well-being with a potential injury or illness. But after Raw went off the air, Bliss provided an update via Twitter in a tweet where she said, "I'm fine, thank you," in response to a concerned fan. Bliss, however, did not comment on whether she'll be back on TV for next week. Bliss did reveal that she was in fact in Oklahoma City for Raw, but couldn't wait to fly back to her home in Orlando, Florida. This post fueled further speculation among fans as to why she missed the show. We don't actually have an official reason as right now why she missed the show. I would think this is just a case of WWE changing things last minute. PW Insider reported last night that it was a crazy day backstage at Raw, and there was a lot of switching around of plans. And look, we didn't have Sheamus versus Lashley, which was announced for the show. I think at one point Damian Priest was going to do an open challenge, which he didn't do. It's typical Monday Night Raw. It's par for the course, and I would assume maybe in the original plan, Alexa Bliss was going to be part of a segment, and then they changed it, and then she wasn't. So she just flew out to Oklahoma just for the sake of it. Just to have some fun, just to be backstage at Monday Night Raw. That is what it is, but there's no issues when it comes to Alexa Bliss. I guess just plans change, pal. But as always, guys, this is just one man's opinion. What are your thoughts on all of these WWE news stories we've spoken about today? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll do my best to respond and reply to all of your comments. Really enjoy interacting with you guys, talking about WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, all things pro wrestling here on the channel. So be sure to get involved in the community. Drop a comment below. All opinions are welcome. If you have enjoyed this video, please do smash a like on the like button too. Really does help us out here on YouTube, get the rankings, and get into people's recommendation feeds if they haven't seen our videos previously. But most importantly, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to Wrestle News 365. You can do that by clicking the bottom right-hand corner of the screen right now, or if you wait a few seconds, there'll be a subscribe button at the end of this video, along with another video for you to watch. Thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or have you come across this video today, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.
Hey guys, thank you for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. Be sure to click on the video on the right there to watch our next video, or click the bottom there to subscribe, or the bottom right hand corner. Thank you very much, and I'll speak to you again very soon.